Imagine, for a moment, a world in which every single instant of your day is devoted to the quest for pleasure. Contemplate the promise of perpetual gratification, an unceasing flow of entertainment, diversions, and indulgences constructed to appease your every urge. Now ask yourself, what toll would you be willing to pay for such luxury? Might the relentless pursuit of happiness lead not to liberation, but to a new form of bondage? Today, we will discuss how, as Aldous Huxley cautioned, the pursuit of pleasure can become a kind of modern slavery. We shall delve into timeless wisdom and also into contemporary psychology in order to illustrate how our collective thirst for comfort, convenience, and gratification may be insidiously robbing us of both our liberty and our humanity. By the end of this exploration, we will unveil a most profound realization, a viewpoint so impactful that it could forever alter the way you perceive your existence. Let us commence this odyssey into understanding the hidden perils of pleasure and how we might regain our freedom in a world determined to keep us bound to transient desires. Psychology helps us recognize how our longing for ease and gratification may be quietly stealing our autonomy and our sense of self. By the end of this discussion, we will share the single most powerful insight, a perspective capable of reshaping your entire life's outlook. Let us set forth on this quest toward comprehending the hazards of pleasure and how we can reclaim our liberty in a society so intent on chaining us to fleeting wants. Aldous Huxley, in his monumental work Brave New World, offers a disturbing portrait of a dystopia in which humanity surrenders its independence in exchange for an illusion of contentment. In that society, individuals are kept docile with soma, a drug guaranteeing a steady state of happiness no matter the futility of their lives. Huxley's world is not maintained by chains or jails, but by a pleasure so potent that no one even thinks to revolt. In his eyes, this is the most treacherous form of domination. Take a moment to consider our own world, with the unending chimes of notifications and the infinite scroll of social media. Are we not likewise being handed our own variant of soma? Psychologists, including Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, famed for his studies on the concept of flow, caution us that although technology can prompt brief moments of absorption, it also ensnares us in cycles of addictive patterns. Algorithms supply us with personalized pleasures, videos, ads, and posts that keep us enthralled, yet ultimately leave us hollow. Reflect on this. How often do you grab your phone in search of a tiny spark of happiness, only to realize hours later that you feel more depleted than contented? The dark side of seeking pleasure is a phenomenon known in modern psychology as the hedonic treadmill, revealing that, irrespective of how much happiness we accrue, we swiftly adapt to it, returning to a customary baseline of satisfaction. Whether it's acquiring a new vehicle, savoring a gourmet meal, or chasing an adrenaline-fueled experience, the elation eventually wanes, and the chase for the next big thrill sets in. In Huxley's view, we become captives of our own cravings, forever chasing a satisfaction that persistently remains beyond our grasp. This is not merely theoretical. Research exposes a troubling relationship between the expansion of today's conveniences and a downward trend in mental well-being. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Affective Disorders discovered that excessive screen usage, specifically on social media, correlates with elevated levels of anxiety and depression. Even more disquieting is how this cycle perpetuates itself. The more isolated and sorrowful we become, the more we seek respite in the very gadgets that intensify our distress. What, then, is the ultimate cost of our unending devotion to pleasure? Philosopher Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and renowned author of Man's Search for Meaning, asserted that true fulfillment is not a product of pursuing happiness in and of itself, but of discovering genuine purpose. In his view, individuals bereft of purpose are prone to distraction, thus deepening their inner emptiness. Ask yourself, are you living with intention? Or have you unwittingly permitted the chase for pleasure to govern your decisions? This question is not simply abstract. It has concrete significance. Each day, we choose. Do we binge another show or spend cherished moments with family? Do we scroll mindlessly or invest in nurturing our personal evolution? These small, seemingly unimportant choices aggregate into the tapestry of our lives. Aldous Huxley famously remarked that most humans possess an almost boundless ability to take their circumstances for granted. In the headlong race for uninterrupted delight, we risk neglecting the deeper joys of our existence: connection, creative expression, self-knowledge, and contributions that surpass our individual concerns. This leads us to a potent revelation. When pursued recklessly, pleasure does not grant us emancipation. Instead, it binds us with unseen shackles just as real as any tangible chains. Such chains tether us to repetitive habits, compulsions, and diversions that drain our time, vitality, and innate potential. As we press on, we will uncover the shadowy systems that capitalize on our addiction to pleasure, and we will learn how to liberate ourselves. But for now, take a moment to wonder. Do you live as a free being, or have you perhaps been reduced to a mere consumer in an economy that thrives on your insatiable cravings? Let that thought steer you as we delve deeper into this path of realization and self-emancipation. For what awaits will disrupt not only how you view the world, but also how you see yourself. Picture a marketplace where your attention is the single most precious currency. In such a realm, the supreme commodity is not gold, petroleum, or even advanced technology. It is you. Every instant that you spend clicking, scrolling, or consuming is not merely engagement with information, but a transaction wherein you are being purchased and sold. Welcome to the attention economy, a mechanism that prospers by fostering your obsession with pleasure, locking you into perpetual cycles of consumption. To grasp how profoundly this system holds sway over us, we need to scrutinize how it exploits our physiological makeup. Neuroscientist Dr. Robert Sapolsky, a foremost authority on stress and dopamine, has illuminated how our brains are fundamentally wired to chase rewards. Anytime we encounter something pleasant, our brains discharge dopamine, a chemical messenger that reinforces conduct. Whether we're reveling in the rush of social media likes, relishing a fresh acquisition, or basking in the triumph of a win, that dopamine surge prompts us to return for more. Here lies the twist. The expectation of pleasure often generates more dopamine than the pleasure itself. It explains why we find ourselves eagerly waiting for a response to a text, or incessantly refreshing our online feeds. It's not the end result, but the promise of reward that keeps us fixated. In this way, the attention economy shapes us into continual pursuers, constantly yearning, yet seldom fulfilled. Think of how this plays out daily. Have you, for instance, noticed yourself checking your phone without any conscious thought or craving something, be it a snack, a video clip, a moment of validation, only to end up feeling empty once you have it? Such occurrences are no coincidence. They are deliberately engineered experiences. As Tristan Harris, a former design ethicist at Google, clarifies, digital platforms are created to take advantage of our vulnerabilities. They employ what he terms intermittent variable rewards, a concept adapted from slot machines to keep us locked into compulsive behavior. Now, let's align this with Aldous Huxley's vision in Brave New World, where the relentless pursuit of pleasure was not simply an individual flaw, but a strategic means of social control. People immersed themselves so completely in their desires that the erosion of their freedom went unnoticed and unchallenged. In our current age, while we might not all be ingesting soma, we are engulfed by digital attractions that serve the same function, to placate us and ensure our compliance. Why is this so critical to understand? Because unbridled indulgence does more than devour our minutes. It deprives us of our potential. If we continuously favor instant gratification over engaging with meaningful endeavors, we forsake the chance to learn, to flourish, and to make a genuine contribution. Author Cal Newport, in his book Deep Work, underscores how shallow interaction with technology diminishes our aptitude for serious focus and the pursuit of mastery. He posits that the most satisfying triumphs in life come not from casual pleasures, but from extended effort and concentrated dedication. Pause for a moment and evaluate. How much of your day goes to truly enriching activities? How often do you opt for immediate thrills in lieu of long-term enrichment? Such reflections are not intended to provoke shame, but to awaken self-awareness. Identifying our habitual patterns is the essential starting point for reclaiming our independence. Nonetheless, escaping these patterns is no simple matter. The framework in which we exist does more than advocate for pleasure-seeking. It normalizes it entirely, from ads that promise bliss in an instant to societal signals that equate success with buying power. We are endlessly instructed that more equates to better. Philosopher Erich Fromm, in his treatise To Have or to Be, warned of this pitfall. He observed that the modern fixation on having, as opposed to being, fosters a life lacking in depth, a life in which true delight is supplanted by the empty gratification of mere ownership. So, what alternative is there? It starts with a radical shift in perspective, turning away from single-mindedly chasing pleasure and turning instead toward purpose. This does not imply refusing all delight, but it does require reassessing its place in our lives. Psychologist Martin Seligman, often dubbed the father of positive psychology, demonstrates that the most deeply satisfying lives are those immersed in meaning, engagement, and authentic relationships. Pleasure contributes, to be sure, but is far from the entire story. Think hard about this. What truly fills you with joy? The enduring kind that does not vanish overnight, but endures through creativity, relationships, and acts of genuine contribution. Can you isolate one facet of your life where short-lived gratification wins out over your longer-term expansion? As we proceed, we shall explore practical strategies for breaking free from the stranglehold of the attention economy and rediscovering the potency of a purposeful existence. For the moment, keep this overarching truth in your thoughts. Pursued without restraint, pleasure is a road to subservience. Genuine freedom demands that we distinguish what genuinely uplifts us from what ultimately harms us. The resolution to these queries does not lie in the next distraction, but in the still, reflective intervals of true introspection. Let us forge ahead on this path together, revealing how to reclaim our precious time, our focus, and, in the end, our very lives. What unfolds next will shake the core of all your assumptions about joy and autonomy. Let us now plunge further into the psychological and philosophical ramifications of a life ruled by the hunt for pleasure. The teachings of Aldous Huxley and modern thinkers make one thing clear. Unchecked hedonism does not merely enslave individuals, it refashions entire civilizations. Contemplate the notion of soft tyranny, a phrase frequently employed to depict control that appears nurturing rather than domineering. Alexis de Tocqueville, in examining democratic societies, suggested that people might one day willingly relinquish their freedoms in return for comfort and assurance. This is exactly the society that Huxley imagined in Brave New World, civilization lulled into submission not by intimidation or compulsion, but through pleasures and diversions. Now, regard our current reality. From the moment we awaken, we are hit with promises of convenience, smart tools that anticipate our needs, apps that serve instant gratification, and an overarching culture that venerates comfort above all else. While these innovations do make life smoother, they also heighten our dependence upon them. The less initiative we invest in living, the more influence we yield to the architects of these systems. Yet the real peril remains covert. This dependency does not feel like enslavement. It feels like advancement. It feels beneficial. And that is precisely why it is so perilous. As Huxley observed, a truly effective totalitarian government would operate such that the ruling powers and their managerial ranks need not exert pressure upon the population, for the people themselves would adore their captivity. Reflect upon how this translates to your situation. How many choices do you make autonomously, and how many are molded, if not outright dictated by data-driven algorithms, social patterns, or the expectations of your peers? When did you last favor hardship for the sake of growth instead of going for the easiest route? This issue is not restricted to the individual. A pleasure-addicted culture disrupts relationships, reshapes communities, and impacts even our global environment. Philosopher Soren Kierkegaard labeled this predicament the despair of the aesthetic life, in which individuals pursue beauty and gratification at the sacrifice of significance and moral responsibility. He contended that genuine contentment is attainable only by embracing the ethical life, a life built upon purpose, obligation, and loftier principles. Let's make this more tangible. Envision two roads. One is smooth and level, offering a swift and painless trip to a life dominated by immediate gratification, but lacking real depth. The other is uneven, steep, and testy, necessitating effort and self-denial, yet bestowing rewards of personal evolution, real connection, and an enduring legacy. Which route do you walk today? Modern research corroborates Kierkegaard's claims. Numerous studies confirm that people who value intrinsic objectives, like self-improvement, nurturing relationships, and service to others, tend to have greater joy and satisfaction in life than those who chase extrinsic aims, such as monetary gain, renown, or social standing. Yet our societal ethos continuously pushes us toward the latter because a commercial culture leans heavily on constant dissatisfaction. If you were truly content, you would not scramble to buy the latest device, style, or novelty. For this reason, advertising does more than merely sell products. It constructs entire lifestyles, fostering the idea that true bliss is perpetually one transaction away. But here is the stark reality. No accumulation of external pleasures can replenish an internal void. This explains why so many individuals, even after attaining all they believed they desired, remain burdened by a sense of emptiness. Psychiatrist Carl Jung famously declared that people will resort to virtually any means, no matter how irrational, to evade confronting their own souls. The persistent chase for pleasure frequently serves as a diversion from the more arduous, yet far more fulfilling, path of deep self-examination. So, how might we dismantle this trap? The initial step is consciousness. We must cultivate the ability to see the institutions and behaviors that hold us captive to pleasure. But simple recognition is only the beginning. It must be accompanied by deliberate and occasionally uncomfortable actions aimed at regaining mastery over our own lives. Start small. Silence your notifications. Establish boundaries with technology. Choose activities of genuine substance over mindless amusements. These may appear trivial, but in a societal design built to keep you distracted, they amount to acts of genuine revolution. Ask yourself, how would your existence transform if you emphasized meaning instead of fleeting fun? Which patterns or perspectives must shift for you to embrace the path of growth, rather than bowing to the lure of quick relief? As we venture into the concluding segment of this voyage, we will investigate the deepest and most potent epiphany, the definitive key to escaping the shackles of pleasure. This discovery could redefine not just your daily habits, but your very identity. Stay with us, for the most crucial lesson remains just ahead. Now, let us squarely face the pivotal question at hand. How do we reclaim our liberty in a world that benefits from our compulsion for pleasure? The remedy lies in comprehending an essential truth. Authentic freedom arises not from indulging in every whim, but rather from cultivating the self-control to pursue that which truly counts. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote that he who possesses a why to live can endure nearly any how. This wisdom constitutes a critical cornerstone of personal emancipation. When our lives are steered by a strong purpose, the transient draw of pleasurable distraction begins to lose its hold on us. Purpose functions as a compass, navigating us past diversions and temptations, guiding us toward a life of genuine importance. Look at the figures in history who have had a monumental effect. People such as Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, or Martin Luther King Jr. Their extraordinary impact wasn't forged through the pursuit of leisure and ease, but through meeting adversity head-on in order to serve a cause bigger than themselves. They show us that the richest joys in life frequently emerge, not from fleeting indulgences, but from acts of charity, the spark of creation, and steadfast resolve. Yet, in a world that constantly tugs us in countless directions, how do we discover our own why? Viktor Frankl provides a possible route in man's search for meaning, pinpointing 3 principal sources of meaning: producing something valuable, experiencing genuine love and closeness, and fostering growth through adversity. Each of these demands that we look beyond ourselves and our surface desires, beckoning us to immerse ourselves more fully in life. Start with questions like these. What legacy do I hope to leave behind? How can I use my strengths to benefit others? When confronted with hardship, how might I reshape it into an avenue for personal and spiritual growth? Though these inquiries are not simple, they are indeed transformative. In seeking their answers, you begin your first steps away from being enslaved by pleasure and toward a life directed by intention. Now, we arrive at the most vital revelation, the link that integrates all we have explored so far. While pleasure, in its allure, draws us in, it proves to be nothing but a distraction from a more profound search for meaning. Real happiness, as Aristotle proposed, does not lie in an incessant stream of pleasures, but in eudaimonia, or a flourishing existence grounded in virtue, reflective thought, and deliberate action. Yet to embody this sort of life, we must cultivate discipline. Discipline is the capacity to opt for enduring gains over momentary delights. Discipline is the fortitude to reject what is effortless and instead embrace what is moral and beneficial. To quote Jocko Willink, "Discipline equals freedom. By exerting discipline, we acquire mastery over our urges, transitioning from existing as captives of desire to becoming active architects of our future." To hone discipline, begin by forming small but consistent habits. Rise slightly earlier to meditate or to simply reflect. Devote a segment of each day to a purposeful goal. Limit the constant stream of distractions that drain your focus and vitality. Though modest in appearance, these feats of self-regulation have a ripple effect that steadily reshapes your entire life. Another empowering practice is to willingly accept discomfort. Growth scarcely takes root in the realm of comfort. Be it testing your physical limits, picking up a challenging new skill, or confronting a difficult personal truth. Your readiness to experience discomfort is what sets apart those who break barriers from those who remain content with mediocrity. Remember, every instance in which you choose discipline over indulgence further empowers you to live with intention. Every time you deny the siren call of trivial distractions, you recapture a portion of your liberty. These choices, modest though they may seem, embody a mutiny against a culture that reaps rewards from your inattention. Finally, we circle back to Aldous Huxley's admonition. He predicted a society in which pleasure might be weaponized as a means of subjugation, inciting the masses to relinquish their autonomy for convenience and to forsake their innate potential for the illusion of safety. Yet he also believed in humanity's ability to awaken and fight back. You hold the capacity to break free from these invisible bonds by prioritizing purpose over pleasure, restraint over indulgence, and genuine meaning over trivial distraction. What then will you decide? Will you allow yourself to remain on that broad, easy road paved by fleeting desires, or will you rise, resolved to accept the rigors of an intentional, purposeful life? The choice rests firmly in your hands. And never forget, this quest is not just about bettering your own journey. It is about sparking the people around you to follow suit. Speak openly of your realizations, your hardships, your triumphs. Together, we can shape a culture in which freedom ceases to be a vague ideal and is, instead, a life we all experience each day. The time to wake up is now. Our chains may be invisible, but they can surely be shattered. The road may be treacherous, but it leads to greatness. Decide wisely and proceed fearlessly into the life you are truly meant to live.